Section 5.7 is about inequalities in two triangles. So it's called the hinge theorem that we're going to be using. And it says if two sides of one triangle are congruent to two sides of another triangle, and the included angles are not incongruent, then the longer third side is opposite the larger included angle. So what that's saying is, if you have like a side angle side looking formula, which is why it's called side angle side, and you have these matching, this longer side will be bigger than the smaller side based off their angles, similar to what you saw in 5.6. So let's take a look here at this example. It says, which of the following statements must be true? Well, I have a side angle side and a side angle side here. So looking at my angles, I know that angle A over here is 90 degrees. So since this angle is bigger than angle O, I know that SK has to be bigger than UY. So looking at my statements, I look for which one it says, and SK is bigger than YU would be my answer, since this angle is bigger on this triangle than that one. Okay, you're going to pause the video and try the got it question. So in the got it question, you should see that you have two sides congruent, and then the included angles, you have one bigger than the other. So on this triangle, LN would be bigger than OQ. So that's how I wrote out my inequality. NL is greater than QO. Okay, then the other kind of theorem is that you have the converse of it. So if you know that that side is bigger, just like when you had side angle side, then you also know that the included angle will be bigger. So just going in the reverse order. So we can use that to help us find the range of what x can be, similar to what we did in section 5.6. So here is my first example. And it says, what's the possible values for what x has to be? So you look at this in terms of having two triangles, and I see a side angle side and a side angle side. So what you can do is, I know that with this side being bigger than this side, then this angle has to be bigger than this angle. So I wrote that out. I said angle RUS has to be bigger than the angle SUT based off of their opposite sides. Okay, so first you're just going to set it up by saying that. Then I'm going to plug my stuff in. So RUS was 60 and SUT is the 5x minus 20. So then I can solve for x. So I add 20 over and get 80, and then I'm going to divide by 5, which typically we switch it around so that x is on the other side. So we would say that x has to be less than 16. So then the other way, or the next step you should do is finding the lower limit. And since you have to find what x is, obviously this angle will never be 0 or less than 0. So your next one will be taking this angle that has the expression and putting it greater than 0. So I plugged in my expression, 5x minus 20, and then I put it greater than 0. So then I'm just going to solve. So I added 20 over, and then I'm going to divide by 5. So remember, in the last section we wrote it as x can be greater than 4 and x is less than 16, but then you're going to convert that into this compound inequality where you put the bigger number on the right, the smaller number on the left, and then I always have less than symbols and put x in the middle. So this is saying that x has to be between 4 and 16 in order for it to work for this picture. Okay, you're going to pause the video and see if you can do the got it question. So in the got it question, asking for the possible values of x again. So here are my two triangles. I see that this side is bigger than this side, so therefore n has to be bigger than k. So that was the first thing that I wrote out, that this angle is bigger than this one. So then I substituted in my expressions or my values. So I put 90 in for the O and P, and I put 3x plus 18 in for K. Then I went ahead and solved, so I subtracted 18 and divided by 3. So I got that x has to be less than 24, so there's my upper limit. Then I take this expression over here and I put it greater than 0 because this angle will always be bigger than 0. So then I went ahead and wrote that out, and I subtracted 18, and then I divided by 3. So then that means that x has to be greater than -6. So remember, putting them together it looks like this, but then we're going to convert it into this compound inequality. So the bigger number goes on the right, the smaller number goes on the left, and then x goes in the middle with less than symbols. So what you're trying to do then, I guess, is just find what those x have to be so that, again, it fits for this problem. So the hinge theorem is that you involve the side angle sides, so those have to be congruent, and you can either use the opposite sides to talk about the angles, or you can use the angles to talk about the opposite sides.